on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, and exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, the end is near.
Well, hello everyone out there on YouTube and Facebook, our video suite, and our radio network. We have got a great program. In fact, we got a number of great programs coming up tonight right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. We have Anne Marie coming in with her Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. That program starts in about a minute or two, and then we have a number of other programs coming up afterwards. So if you're listening in on YouTube, by all means, check the other programs out as well. JW World News at 7. And then at 9 o'clock, around 9:30, we have a special program, Murder in the Watchtower. We have got a relative who had 3 Jehovah's Witness family members murdered. She's coming on tonight. She's going to be talking about it. That'll be about 9 o'clock, 9:30, in there somewhere. And then at 11 o'clock, well, 11:30 or so, we go to a pasta babe out there in Southern California. So your favorite apostate, Linda James, she'll be coming in around 11:30 tonight. So anyways, let's see if we can't get Anne Marie on here for her program. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick. How's everything going today?
Well, everything's going really good today. I have to tell you, it's a nice day here in New England. And we're going to be getting into the fall very shortly. That's a beautiful season, too. So we're looking forward to a lot of good things. Looking forward to your program, Anne Marie. So tell the audience what you're going to be talking about tonight.
I'm sorry. Well, we're going to talk about what you brought up. I love the way you bring up great subjects. Today, we're going to be talking about marriage in the Watchtower. You know, thank you so much, my brother Rick, for giving me the idea. Once I started thinking about the subject, a lot of little things came into my memory that I had forgotten, I remembered. And I'm hoping that there are a lot of people listening who will remember things maybe in their own experience in the Watchtower or their family members' marriages in the Watchtower. Maybe they knew of a married couple in the Watchtower that they want to mention. So I want to encourage everyone to, feel free to be involved. Yes, I want to bring up the subject, and yes, I want to share what I'm thinking. But it's not about me. It's about you. Anybody who has an idea, feel free to jump in. I want to welcome everyone on this beautiful day, Six Screen Saturday. Once again, aren't we blessed to have the form of the Six Screens that Rick so faithfully provides? Today is August 27th. 2022, and I welcome newcomers in, more and more are starting to wake up. More and more peonies in the Watchtower, physically in, mentally completely taken over. We call them peonies, mentally in, physically in. But there are those that little by little, more and more, they can't keep swallowing down their doubts or swallowing down that feeling that something is wrong. Something just doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right in my conscience. I'm bothered. I feel conflicted. This doesn't make sense. Why did they teach this and now they're teaching that? Why are they telling me I have to do more of this and I have to do less of that? They're the ones that before they wake up and completely know that this is a lie, this is not God's anything, there is a segue, a transitional period from where they go being completely indoctrinated, physically in, mentally in, to before they come mentally out, they're PIMQs. They're physically in, mentally they're questioning. This is that time where they spend a lot of time just shoving it down. Well, Jehovah will take care of it. Well, this is Jehovah's organization. Men are just imperfect. I have to stick with Jehovah's organization. But sooner or later, it starts to bubble up to where they can't ignore it anymore. There's going to be that one thing that says, I can't keep denying it. Something is wrong. And they start to allow themselves to question. They start to allow themselves to maybe look up scriptures to answer their questions, or they start to allow themselves to look at sites maybe searching for answers on the internet. YouTube. There are so many testimonies, so many verified proofs out there of what Watchtower really is. And this is why Six Screens is so important. We tell the truth about the truth. And today we are talking about marriages in the Watchtower. Does anyone want to comment? Anyone want to share anything before I go into what examples I'm going to be giving? *6 if anybody wants to say hello, have a thought. Remember, this show is about you. We want you to feel involved. Okay, *6. And I'm going to get into, hello, go ahead, my sister. What's on your mind?
Hi. I don't, the stories are too long because I lost 2 marriages to the Borg. I was in 45 years, so I had 2 marriages during the 45 years, and I lost them both. And it's a long story, but what I can just say in general is we did not grow in our marriage because of all of our attention had to be focused outside of ourselves. Like, our marriage wasn't a priority, because what was a priority was obeying the rules in the Borg. So we didn't take time to grow up and learn how to communicate. We were childlike, and I see that through 2 marriages. I've only been woke up for a few years, and I realized we were just like children, and we had no idea how to make a relationship. We had no idea how to communicate with empathy and try to understand one another. It was all about do this, do that, if you're not doing this and you're not doing that, because they give you your identity as a wife, and they give you your identity as a husband. And those identities are not you. So you and your husband never really get to know each other. So I see a sadness for me, because they block the cult focus was on outside the marriage. It wasn't in the marriage. It wasn't in the relationship. It was like you just kept bowing down to this idol, and you thought you were together because you were both bowing down together in this cult. You were both putting your energy toward this same object, and then they teach that, the God is the 3rd chord in your marriage. Well, he never really was in our marriage. So that was gaslighting, when they tell you, oh, well, God is the 3rd chord, it'll make you strong. That's not true. That was never in our marriage, because if God was in our marriages would have not ended. It wouldn't have been destroyed. It wasn't God. It was something else. It was this, whatever it was, and it was dark. It wasn't positive. It wasn't helping us to grow and mature as adults. So that's all I have to say. There's probably a lot more to it, but that's a really good subject to bring up. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think so many marriages, and especially when one member wakes up. But that didn't happen to me. My marriages were lost for other reasons while I was still inside the Borg, and it was due to dysfunction and miscommunication and just not having the ability to communicate. Okay, thank you.
Hi, can I
I'll just let somebody else talk.
Thank you so much, sister, for bringing that out. You brought up so many great points, like they really keep you childish. They certainly don't give you any kind of marriage skills or communication skills to have a good marriage. And it is all about basically serving the organ. You're not your authentic self, and neither is your mate. So how can you have a true intimate marriage? I'm sorry, was there someone else trying to talk?
Yeah, hello, Anne-Marie.
Hi, I thought there was somebody else, another sister.
Take the other caller, please.
Thank you.
I was trying to.
Go ahead.
I kind of want to be anonymous. I have spoken. This is a tough subject right here, y'all. Because first of all, the sister who babysitted my children, who helped me raise my children, married my ex-husband. They're both witnesses. I'm a witness. At this particular point, I was reinstated. And it's just really hard for me because one thing is that what broke my family was my husband was so far up into the fact that he was an elder, and that was his main thing. If I lose my eldership and all this, it was more important for him to be an elder than take care of his family. He put my son out, and it just was so much. This woman who married him had been an instrument in the demise of my family. And although it seems so odd to me that this is the same woman that would tell my daughter certain things, but at the same time now you're ending up married to my ex-husband. Now my grandson is confused that his TT is married to his papa. It's odd because when I looked at it, I was like, this just ain't right. He did not even fight for his life. You know, I might have did some things, but it was out of the fight that I was really trying to find myself. I was stuck in a narcissistic relationship that was really, really a mentally abusive relationship that had me in a point that I was stuck. And I was just really trying to get away from the situation I was in. And when I heard all these instruments about marriage today, and I was thinking, you know, we was married when we was 20. We was baptized together. And we was one of the iconic families in the truth. Our children were doing certain things and pioneers, and I was a pioneer. And it was just complicated because you're right. You know, it's like everything, you know, you don't think about the fact that maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I even have a sister that outright attacks me right now, and she has said some things that I'm really trying to stay calm in the situation and remain peaceful and humble under the situation, but I don't want to be walked on. But I'm starting to feel like I'm really like a target for like people to just walk on. Because how do you marry my ex-husband and you were supposed to be my friend? How do the brothers in the organization get y'all? You know, how does that get approved? How does that happen? You know, that's really my discussion out of this conversation that's being discussed today.
Wow, sister, I can't even imagine how you're able to be so steady and so calm. You know, you brought up some great points, and please know my heart goes out to you in your situation. You know, and you made 3 comments that jumped out at me. You said the elder husband was more important to him to basically be an elder. His position was more important to him than being a good husband and father. And you mentioned dealing with a narcissistic person and mental abuse. And the idea that your best friend in the Watchtower basically broke up your marriage and then married him, your husband, and then it seems like Watchtower's like, oh, well, and you're just supposed to smile and keep your mouth shut and keep obeying and don't question. And that is insanely horrible. And don't worry about being anonymous. You know what? This is a a very free and safe forum. You call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. You share whatever's on your heart. And I want to thank you, sister, and I want to thank the sister before you. Both of you brought up some clear, such honest, real, and visceral points. Ken, I'm sorry, did you want to comment again before I go to Ken, who's still waiting?
No, that would be basically, I appreciate you saying that, because it's like I said, I appreciate that because I keep getting these same answers that they're not filling the void that I'm trying to get. And I've been here before. I just decided not to say my name today. I know this is a safe place. That's why I came here today.
I want to thank you, and we are all very grateful. We always welcome new ones. All of us were new at one time, and you call yourself whatever name you feel comfortable with. Nobody asks anybody to identify themselves unless, just give whatever name so we know how to refer to you. And I thank you so much again. Is there anyone, please don't leave us, sister, okay? I don't think I've ever heard you here before. Is this your first time calling in?
No, I've been here for about 8 years, but I just didn't want to say my name because certain things just been kind of like unfolding in the past. Yeah.
I'm sorry that I don't remember.
You can call me T. You can call me T.
T. That's going to be hard. That's my great-granddaughter. We call her T. Okay. Hopefully I'll help me remember. Well, how are you coping today? Do you still go, are you still affiliated with Watchtower? May I ask that?
Yeah, I am, but it's just like, how do I cope? I just cope, you know what I'm saying? Deal with it the best way I can. It's just that I've seen a lot of things. I'm dealing with issues with my son. I'm dealing with issues with the fact that I don't even really talk to this ex-husband. And even though I'm back, I still don't talk to him because, of course, she don't want me to talk to him because she knows. Why would she want him to talk to me? Period.
Bad message. And your friend is your cousin.
Right. So the thing about it is no, she don't want him to talk to me because you know you're wrong. Whatever you think that you thought, you're wrong. You're wrong. Period. There's no, I don't care. Oh, you can't help who you love. You can't. No, that's wrong. That was my daughter's best friend. You was a lady I let in my home to babysit my children. I helped you. You helped me tutor my children. I let you in my house. You understand me? Lord. You turned around and married my ex-husband. Are you serious? Anybody else I could have dealt with. I could have been a friend. We could have been there. But you, really, how do you marry my ex-husband? How do you do that? How does that happen? And y'all think that that's going to be okay? That Jehovah approves of that? No, Jehovah don't approve of that. Jehovah does not approve of that. No, I'm not going to say that. So you want to call me, just call me T. But yeah, no, he's not going for that. I'm not even going to go for that. I'm not. I don't appreciate that. A lot of things. Who is that? Yeah, I don't appreciate it. Yeah. So I don't appreciate a lot of that.
Right. Well, remember Maya Angelou, one of my favorite poems, I don't remember the name of it, but basically it's you rise above the ugly, the wrong, the nasty, the betrayal. You are so much better than. You rise above. You are a phenomenal woman. Indeed, I cannot begin to imagine my cousin that I trust like my blood, my sister almost, to do that betrayal. That level of betrayal is beyond comprehension to me. And I just, my heart goes out to you. But, we don't want what they did, the negative that they did. And for you to be handling it the way you are, I'm just like aghast. Wow, you are an amazing woman.
Thank you so much. I'm hey, it's all with God's help. I think in this aspect that, it's like it's not easy, but I just keep moving forward in life, I just keep moving forward. And man, he bought me a house in the ghetto and bought her a house somewhere else. That's another whole story.
Oh, what? Oh my God.
And then,
Okay, well,
then he took my and then not only that, he lost my home with raised my children in. Now we're all living in apartments and they live in a house. That's all I got to say about that.
I feel sick. I'm so sorry, T. That just makes me want to find him and jump through the phone and knock the hell out of both of them. And I'm not as nice as you. Okay, well, I'm hoping, T, that you will remain on the line and listen to the rest of the show. Ken, are you still there? You wanted to comment?
Yeah, hello, still. Can you hear me?
We hear you, Ken. What do you?
Okay.
What's your take on this?
Well, my heart goes out to this lady that just called in and so forth. And, you just, it never gets any better. It just, the longer you take these testimonies in, the worse they get. Never gets any better. So we're hoping that one of these days the Watchtower Society is going to fall over like it ought to and so forth. Well, if you look around the world this day and age, Christianity always teaches that, the man is the head of the household, but God is the head of both of you, and you got to go by his rules if you get married, and everything like that. And they preach that right and left. But when you go to these religions, Watchtower Society and all, nothing could be further from the truth. I think that you'd have to look, you'd have to pound a lot of sidewalk here before you could even start going. If you started to go door to door, and you'd have to pound a lot of sidewalk to even see a so-called Christianity's marriage in the Lord. I think amongst their ministers, it's something like 2 out of 5 end up in divorce. And those statistics are pretty old and so forth. So, it's outrageous, and it's just getting worse all the time. So we hope that one of these days that we can bring this Watchtower down. And I just wanted to also announce the person that used to be on this program or call in a lot of times if he wasn't coordinating the show, Jay. I haven't been able to get in touch with him lately for the longest because he's had phone problems. So when I get a little relief here, I've been kind of busy, been kind of running around a lot. And it takes me a heck of a lot longer to do things than I used to because I'm not moving as fast as I used to. So I'm going to try next week. I'm just going to get a hold of a nursing home and all that, see if they can hook me up to him directly there.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah,
okay.
we're going to find right now that the so-called marriages in the Lord are not. They're just a name only. I think marriage is a name only as to what you need to call it. I think a proper title for that would be a mino, M-I-N-O. That's what we're having this day. So I will be listening, and we look forward to more of this information coming through, and hopefully, I know people won't be happy about it, but hopefully it'll help somebody understand what's going on.
Well, thank you so much, Ken. I appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to comment or have a question or give a share before I get into some things I wanted to present as far as examples of marriage in the Watchtower? Go ahead, Sid.
Hello?
Go ahead, dear. We can hear you. Go ahead, dear, please.
Oh, okay. This is my first time calling in.
Welcome.
My name. Hi, thank you. I've been watching Rick for a while and my waking up process, and it's been pretty amazing to see how many people are on the other side.
Go ahead, dear.
So you can hear me?
Sir, we can hear you perfectly. The floor is yours.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
Good. You go ahead.
Yeah. I was born in. I got married young, and it's an interesting topic when it comes to.
How old were you? How old were you when you got married?
I was 20, and I didn't knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's pretty common. The marriage is rushed into without any really a sense of getting to know the other person, as you were saying earlier. You can't really, unless you're bowing to the organization, you can't really have an honest, open conversation, and you can't really get to know each other on your own terms in a way. And so it's tricky. My wife and I were married for 20 years. She passed away about a year ago. And,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so it was really hard. And then during that time, I was watching, evil, wicked, apostate videos and finding out the real nature of the organization. And, it's pretty crazy to think that I too have shunned people. I too have been a narcissist simply by association. And, I feel for a lot of people that are in it and don't know that they're being really unchristian and really unloving in a lot of ways. And I did my best to be a good husband, but frankly, because you're constantly guilted into pioneering and spending all your time for the organization, quite often I made sacrifices that didn't really benefit our family in the long term. And that happened with work, that happened with all sorts of things. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty destructive situation. If you're born in, I don't know, any child, just the desire to belong and to have a community of people that love you, and the fear of losing that is strong enough to kind of push away any doubts that you might have. And that's, I feel sorry for any PMOs, anybody that's waking up. It's better to know the truth about it than to pretend that everything's fine. But it's because of the internet, and because of so much, it's just amazing to see how many people are realizing how what these men are really doing and what their agenda really is. And it makes me sad because I really love my family. I love all the people that are being lied to. And I think there's some really, really good people in it. They just don't know what's going on. And so it's hard to watch. But thank you guys for the show. It's always informative. It's always helping me, just realize that this is the best decision to stay away from them. But I appreciate it. Marriage is tricky anytime these days. But I loved my wife, but it was really hard because I didn't know didn't know who I was, and she didn't really know who she was, because you have to pretend and develop a personality that isn't really on your own terms. So anyway, that's
wow. So I'm so glad you said that she didn't know who she was and you didn't know who you were. Isn't that what goes on? They basically hijack your brain from the time that you're either born or come in. They literally hijack your brain and they hijack who you are, and then they install a new identity, an identity that basically if you're a good quote unquote Jehovah's Witness, you're basically a properly programmed Watchtower drone. And it's so scary. So how are you supposed to have an intimate marriage when you're close to each other and love each other, when you not only don't know your mate, you don't even know who you are, and they don't know who they are, and yet you dealt with it for 20 years and lost your wife? I'm sorry, dear. Go ahead.
I'll tell you this one story, which kind of should have woke me up, but didn't. I was disfellowshipped once for the first time, and my wife and I tried to patch it up, and we did. But during that time, I said, why don't we just read the Bible together every night? Then we can really talk about things, and it'll be great. So we started doing that. Well, the elders found out about it, and they came to us and said, you shouldn't be reading the Bible together. That's the kind of control and absolute submission these men want. They do not want you realizing that having any sort of connection that they're not involved in. They want control over your family as much as possible. And it's very much like a mafia. It's very much like, well, if you ever tell on us, you'll never see your family again. Well, the fact is, you're spreading lies and you're hurting people. And, it's awful. It's hurting families, hurting so many people that are just trying to love God. I mean, I love God. I think God is important, and I really do believe that people should live the way God tells us, but not substituting God for a group of men and saying, we are God. If you don't obey us, God doesn't love you anymore. And telling children that from the time they're little, basically, is very psychologically harmful. And it's crazy. There's plenty of other cults that do the same thing. So I guess it's common. But thank you so much for taking my call. You guys are so brave. I think anybody leaves this is brave. Because you do have to have a lot of courage to just tell the truth.
That is so true. Is there a name that we can refer to you by? James, Roger?
James is fine.
Oh, I love that name. Okay, well, just remember you're James. James, I hope that you stay on the line. And if anything else comes to your mind that you want to share, please feel free. We are so happy to hear from you, and we want to encourage you to keep listening. And we hope that you really feel that you actually have come to a true brother and sisterhood, because here, no matter if we're angry or sad or crying or happy or telling a story that doesn't have anything to do with anything, we here can share from our heart. And not only can we share from our heart, James, but we know that all those who are listening are nodding their heads. Many have tears in their eyes listening to you because they can so relate and so understand everything you share, James. Is there anything else that you wish to share before we move on? Go ahead.
I just I'm looking for it. I mean, it seems to me the way the internet is, and I just want to say this out loud because it's becoming quite obvious now that they're out in front, these men that are blowing out matches, and doing all kinds of clearly unchristian. I'm looking forward to the time when all the PMOs will have the courage, if there's anybody listening, to just show their parents, show their family members, the ARC, show their family, this is the real face of this organization. And with the internet the way it is, I mean, all you have to do is walk up to a cart. I talked to some people at a cart yesterday, and I think it's going to be interesting to see the numbers drop like they've dropped already, and see people wake up from this, because it's horrific what's happening. Mothers and children not being able to see each other, and marriages breaking up because a group of men think that disfellowshipping means disagreeing with, a blood doctrine, or disagreeing with the great, the oracle in the sky, and they've taken the place of God, and it's disgusting. No one should have that kind of control over who you decide to love or not love. And just love. It's the one scripture that I was reading that woke me up is, we never love our enemies, so how could we be right? You can't feed someone and shun them. And so, it's not loving. It's not Christian. It's not love. And it's hurting so many people. But if people can have the courage to speak up that are in it, I don't know. It seems like a lot of people are waking up because of the internet. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. You guys are so nice, and just keep it up. God bless you guys.
Well, God bless you as well, James. And you're so right. Thank you about bringing up love. It truly is incongruous, isn't it? Where Watchtower teaches that they're so full of love, and we love our neighbors, and we want to show them the truth and share with them the quote-unquote truth before it's too late. But yet you will turn your back coldly on your own mother, your own father, your own grandmother, your own grandfather, your own child. But your own child. Let your own child bleed to death on the altar of the Watchtower's twisted blood doctrine, which God never said, you can't have a blood transfusion. Even Watchtower has admitted that blood is basically a liquid organ. Eating liver is not the same as getting a liver transplant. Getting a blood transfusion is not the same thing as using blood like food. Thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for bringing up what real love is, They basically talk out of both sides of their mouth on just about any subject that really matters or has to do with God. Go ahead, dear.
Well, I'm so amazed after I woke up how many people have the same experience. And when you get this fellowship, you think it's your fault. And your kid, like, if you're just telling the truth, like, being honest, my little brother, all my family is split up because of this. My older brother is mentally completely insane because of everything he's been through. And he got married young too. And when you have this autocratic way of ruling people, telling them, if you don't agree with this, you will never see your mother again. If you don't agree with this, and you're not realizing that baptism means a contract that is already written up in the minds of the men. That if you ever find out that they're not the faithful slave, they're not all the things they claim, then it's the biggest shock, because you have only one choice: to leave and basically try to find a network of people that will love you unconditionally, or to stay with people that will love you, but in a very conditional and abusive way. And I can sympathize so much with PMOs, because I have friends that are PMOs, and I talk to them and I go, do you believe that this is what God wants, for families to be splitting up because a certain man decided that his interpretation of the Bible is the absolute 100% Word of God? And it happens all the time. I'm reading all these cult documentaries of the Westboro Baptist Church and other churches that have come and gone. And it's funny, I could laugh at the Mormons when I was younger. I could laugh at David Koresh. I could think, oh gosh, but to think now that I've been in the same boat my whole life. It's amazing. And there are so many people that are just good people in it, giving their money, giving their time out of their hearts for God, not because they're bad people. I mean, that's where I came from. I was just trying to be a kind and loving person and do what I thought God wanted. And these men are truly perverting God for children, telling them the birthdays of the devil because they decided to, and that everything's wrong. And it's not congruent with honesty, openness, or any sense of free will that people should be able to choose. And it's funny because you see these lawsuits, people are freedom of religion, being able to just choose, hey, I don't agree with this. Just being able to say something. You're silenced. You're told, how dare you, question us. And it's going to be cool to see the internet. I think the internet is going to, anybody can walk up to a cart, when they start door knocking again, anyone can go online and say, I've informed my entire community. I've met a lot of people. I said, if Jehovah's Witnesses ever come to your door, this is what you show them. This is what you tell them. And who knows? With the internet the way it is, I'm waiting for somebody to have a viral video, just someone to have something. But they keep making fools of themselves. And who knows? God willing, whatever happens, it'll be exposed eventually. But I'm so grateful for your show, and I'm sorry I talk too much. You guys are so nice to listen to.
Sorry, we're enjoying listening to you, James.
All right. Well, thanks for letting me. I'm gonna sign off, but you guys are really great, and just keep it up and keep exposing them, because they shouldn't be hurting families and people like this. This is what's wrong.
Well, I hope you've come to a safe place, and we have love for you. And, this is where real love does exist. And thank you. I can't tell you how grateful all of us are to hear from you, because we're always supportive of each other, but we're always reaching out to those that, still haven't spoken up or still haven't discovered the six screens, because even though we can watch a lot of videos and listen to a lot of testimonies, and there used to be chat rooms and a lot of forums before we had YouTube, it's still a wonderful thing to have real fellowship with people who truly understand and support you in real time. And this is what Rick provides on his forum for the six screens.
Yeah. we're not bad for asking questions and asking honest, critical questions. You're not a bad person for discovering that this is just a group of men who decided that they were in place of God. That's not their place and never will be. And, it's just wrong. So it's going to be interesting. I think the governing body is going to have a real tough time, and I've heard leaks and things that they're going to have a really, really hard time. I don't think they're going to be able to stop people from speaking out eventually in congregations, all of it, because they know the writing's on the wall for them. They can't keep lying to everyone. They can't. The lie will never be true.
That is so true. And thank you for saying that, and I always love that, John 8:32, or I think 8:32 or 31 says that the truth would set us free. And it's really, really true. I believe that the truth is the truth. You can make up a million lies. You can take facets of the truth and make a pretzel out of it and keep changing it and twisting it and adding to it and changing it. But the truth is always usually a lot simpler, and it doesn't change. It doesn't change. So we have to each make up our own mind. Do we really, really want to continue to submit to the iron-fisted tyranny of a cult? I'm sorry, I didn't even know Watchtower was a cult. And it's a scary thing to start lifting up your head and say, what's going on? I saw a postcard one time that showed a huge field full of a huge flock of sheep, and they were all eating the grass. All of them had their head down, but in the middle of the flock was one sheep that had his head up looking around. And that's you. That's every one of us at one time in the Watchtower saying, something's going on. Something doesn't feel right. And I want to thank you again. Go ahead.
Well, great. No, I think what Rick has been doing for so long. I saw him in Amherst. I used to go to that assembly hall, and it's funny because I've been watching apostate stuff from way back, and I think about how long. And I don't even like that word apostate, but I think people that are apostates are just simply courageous people who don't like being lied to. And when they find out they're being lied to, they can't pretend that it's okay. If they can't. And it's so wonderful to have the validation. I've had a lot of friends that now I'm making that are ex-JWs. They're still God-fearing people. There's some that are atheists. There's some that aren't that I've made. But we share the same experience. Nobody likes being lied to, and you can only pretend for so long to please a bunch of people. So, it's not. I still believe in God. I still believe Jesus. In the Golden Rule, and I still believe in the teachings that Jesus spoke about. It. If this is, there's no way God would abandon someone for sinning. And when people sin and when they have problems or they make a mistake, that's the time that if you have real friends, they're going to say, it's okay, you're forgiven. Not, you're worthless, wicked, we never want to talk to you again. It's going to take a whole year for us to ever even look at you. That's cruel. And it's, it's not loving. So it's amazing that these men have put themselves in the place of God. But it's going to be cool to watch the internet. I hope the internet just shows them what they're doing, and they won't be able to hide forever. But I'm going to stop talking. You guys are wonderful, and I wish you well.
Well, we wish you well, too, and we hope you don't stop talking. I mean, maybe now for a little bit, and we don't want you to stop talking, but we want to make sure everyone feels welcome to speak up. And, I think that I'm going to ask Rick if we can make this a two-parter, because I don't want anyone to feel rushed. If you want to call in and share, and James, I'm so happy. I'm sure Rick is just grinning from ear to ear, so happy to hear you having the bravery of calling in and sharing so much intimacy with what you have been through. And again, I'm so sorry for the loss of your wife. I know you really really tried hard to make everything work and to figure out this thing called marriage.
The thing is, we really loved each other underneath all of that, and I think that's what's so sad, is that people can fall in love, people can be in love, but they have these people micromanaging their lives for them without consent, and not giving people choices, not giving people a sense of autonomy over their own lives, and telling them that you represent God is nothing short of it's wrong. It's just wrong. So.
Yeah, it's evil, isn't it? So I'm sure we have many examples. You know, my little brother, he only knew the organization from the time he was 3.
Wow.
Now he's, 65 or so. He got married extremely young, and because he didn't know what to do. He was on his own, living with a Watchtower couple that were never hesitant to remind him that he was basically the redheaded stepchild. My mother had escaped an abusive marriage and basically went into hiding, and us kids had to find our own way, basically. And
you
my
never feel good
brother,
enough.
I'm sorry?
You just never feel good enough. They place these burdens on you. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, especially when you're living with an elder and his wife who basically at every opportunity don't want you to forget that they took you in out of their good heart, and he's forced to work and turn over his paycheck and do everything to serve the organization to make the elder who took him in look good. And he couldn't wait to get out on his own. And then he marries, this young lady who basically came into the organization as a young adult, and she basically was a Nazi. You ever hear of those Nazi Jehovah's Witnesses?
Yeah, sure.
And those are the worst. Those are the absolute worst. And she has made his life absolutely miserable. I mean, she's sweet, she's loving, but only as long as she's controlling everything. And it's a hard thing to see that this is marriage, and he was in misery from the time he married her because now he was trapped. And she just, it was so horrible to see. Thank you so much, James. Is there anyone else who would like to comment or share, maybe comment on some things that T brought up or James brought up, or the other sister before T? *6. Anyone have any comments? If not, I'll just try to get into a little bit of what I wanted to talk about. I'm just so grateful for James and T bringing up, wow, narcissist, mental abuse, controlling, caring more about your position than your family, not knowing what you're getting into when you get married because you don't know who you are. Your mate doesn't know who they are. Watchtower is controlling you from the cradle to the grave. They control your thinking. Oh my God, it is so horrible. I have looked at a few wedding cakes shown on the internet from married couples that just got married in the Watchtower, and I think I've seen more than one where they have a wedding cake, and on top of the wedding cake is a little miniature literature cart and a little JW bride on one side of the literature cart and a JW groom on the other side. Like, we're married in the Lord. We're faithful Jehovah's Witnesses, and we're doing it together. And there's also been shown newlywed couples, and they're shaking hands or holding on to both sides of a real literature cart, or basically glorifying the literature cart. It's so sad. It's like worship to the Watchtower. The marriages in the Watchtower, I don't even know how they survive. There's so much abuse. There's so much, you don't know what you're doing, who you are. And then when you have children, oh my goodness. I mean, how do you raise your children to feel that they're really loved when mom doesn't know who she is, dad doesn't know who he is, everybody's stressed, everybody's under this emotional pressure all the time. It is really, really bad. Anybody want to *6 before I start giving a few examples?
I will. This is Carrie.
Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
can you hear me?
You just fine. Yes, we
Okay,
hear you
cool.
just fine.
Okay, good. First of all, I want to say that there is no religion higher than truth, first. I always like to think about that, because when you think about Jehovah's Witnesses, they say they have the truth, but there is no religion higher than truth. So it makes you kind of go back to the stream when you think of it that way. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was when there's children naturally ask their parents why. It is a God-given gift for a person to progress as a human being, to ask the question, why? Because that's how we learn. However, in the organization, that natural inclination to ask why is being trampled on. And we are being told what we're supposed to think. So what happens with this is it causes a mental poisoning. And because of that mental poisoning that is going on, they have control of us when we were inside the organization. However, it's not without any detriment to the person or the victim, because that's why there's so many problems health-wise in the organization and such. So I just kind of wanted to bring that out as I was listening, because when we start questioning, that's a natural inclination, a human thing to do. And they are trying to make it so that we don't do that because they have that control. But when you're waking up, there's nothing wrong with that. You need to ask those questions. You need to ask why so that you can move forward. So anyway, welcome to your freedom, everyone. That's all I wanted to say.
Wow, thank you so much for that comment. Is there a name that we can call you by?
It's Carrie K.
Hi, Karen or Carrie?
Carrie.
Aw, I love that name. That was the name of my little sister that my mom lost. Thank you so much. I love that name. Thank you for bringing up freedom. There is one scripture. There's one scripture in the New World Translation I wish every witness would read. It's 2 Corinthians 3:17. And this is one scripture that by itself proves that the Watchtower is not God's anything. And it simply says, now Jehovah is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of Jehovah is, there is freedom. Because there is no real freedom in any facet by any stretch of the imagination, there is no freedom in Watchtower. You're not free to think. You're not free to research. You're not free to disagree. You're not free on who you marry. You're not free on how you dress. You're not free on how you speak. You're not free on who your friends are, who you can associate with, what you believe. There is no facet that you can think of where there is freedom in the Watchtower. So because 2 Corinthians 3:17 says that where the Spirit of Jehovah is, there is freedom, that clearly shows that Jehovah's Spirit is not in any way, shape, or form with this organization. No matter how they claim, oh, Jehovah's Spirit is guiding us, the Spirit of this and the Spirit. No. There is no freedom in Watchtower, so therefore that proves God isn't there. If it was God's organization, don't you think he would be there? What we do have is a spirit of absolute tyranny, cruelty, coldness, judgment, self-righteousness, arrogance, depression, destroying of families, shattering of relationships, tearing apart lives, suicides, people bleeding to death, murder. Yeah, murder, even murders. Anybody want to comment before we move on? We're almost at the end. Go ahead, Chewy. Hi, my brother.
Hey, you know, I chimed in here, and I think this is I watched this. I was just wanting to get a little change of topics, but I Googled the Book of Thomas, and it kind of chimes in, or the video, not the theme, but the video, what he talked about, and I watched another one after that. It was on the Apostle Paul, and it was a college Yale course that I am going to watch. It's like 17 videos. It's pretty cool, actually. It's got all sorts of different subjects about Greeks and Romans and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, he was talking about the Apostle Paul. And he said, and then he talked a little bit about Jesus. And he said, that's why Jesus came here, was because not only to go following the Bible to save mankind, but to remove religious tyranny. He didn't say tyranny, but that's what he was talking about. Religious oppression. He used that word. He said before they had all these laws, the Mosaic law. He had all these laws. He came here and he said, you don't need to do that anymore. No more laws. No more this. No more that. No more this. No more that. He said the Apostle Paul did the same thing. He said we're free. He said we're free. And then he gave a couple of other examples that they did the same thing. He said Martin Luther, that's what he did. He went right on the Pope's doorstep and said this and this and this and this, this and this. It's all tyranny. And he said Calvin did the same thing. Well, we can relate to that. It's the same thing. History repeats itself. Why really? There's a lot of reasons, but when you look back at it, we were under religious oppression too. We just didn't know it at the time. You got to do this. You got to prepare for the meetings. You got to do this. The most disgusting video I ever saw, mentally disgusting, was the Watchtower in their latest assembly. I don't know what day it is, but anyway, they had a drama, a reenactment or something, whatever you want to call it, a video clip. And they had an Oriental lady in there, and she was she was eating, and in the next booth over, sitting adjacent to her, to the right or to the left, there was another Oriental couple. And they were talking about informal witnessing. And it wasn't in the parking lot. It wasn't in line waiting for food. They were guilt tripping those poor witnesses into thinking that they have to put forth an effort in between bites of their food while they're sitting down. It showed it, Anne Marie. I couldn't believe it. I just cringed when I saw that. She was looking for a way to, when that lady's mouth was empty and mouth was empty at the same time, to give her track and talk with her a little bit in between bites. And they were guilt tripping them into doing it. Talk about religious oppression, That's just, I couldn't believe that when I saw that. That's all I got for right now.
Well, thank you, Thomas, so much for your sharing and relevance.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I do that all the time. I call. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you're Chewy. I think Thomas already chimed in. Thank you, Chewy, so much. We are getting near the end. I'm going to ask Rick if we can do a two-parter, because there really is a lot to bring out about Watchtower marriages. We've touched on a few of the pointers, but we really haven't gotten into a lot of the examples and experiences that really illuminate the pointers.
Anne Marie, this is Rick. Anne Marie, yeah, this is Rick. So, anyways, because of the volume of people coming in tonight, this is very unusual to have this many people calling and people wanting to come in and talk. So we're going to keep the program going for another 10 and 15 minutes. So we'll end at about 7:15, okay?
Okay, Rick. And later I'm going to ask you if we can do.
Yeah, we'll do a two-part. We'll do a two-part too.
Okay?
But go an extra 10 or 15 minutes tonight, and then we'll come back in 2 weeks and talk about it more. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rick, because I know you had a few things you wanted to share about your experience as well. And, maybe we can look forward to that in 2 weeks. If there is someone that would like to speak up. Thank you, Rick. Is there anyone who's listening in and thinking of things, what they've gone through, what they've seen, experienced? Feel free. Rick has given us about another 10 to 15 minutes. We're over time, but he's given us some time from his upcoming show, I'm sorry, listen to this. I'm so sorry I said that. Rick needs to go to JW World News, but he's giving us 10 to 15 minutes of his time. Please, anyone want to speak up?
Anne-Marie?
Go ahead. Hi. Hello.
Hi, Anne-Marie. It's Susan.
Hi,
one
Susan.
thing that I wanted to bring out is, that hasn't been discussed yet, and maybe next time you can, is when someone wants to choose a mate, the qualities that they look for when they want to choose a mate. And what an average woman would want to look at to choose a mate. Does he have a job? Does he, this or that? But a witness says, has he been to Bethel? Was he pioneer? Does he comment every month? What do the other brothers and sisters say about him? Does he give public talks? Is he an elder? Is he a ministerial servant? Is he going to be an elder? Is he going to be a ministerial servant? Could he be a circuit overseer someday? This is what goes through a witness person's mind when they're choosing a mate. And it has nothing to do with they'd be a good provider, a good father. All it shows is, are they a good Watchtower drone?
Wow. Your experience is always what I call the JW elder wannabe ornament on his arm. Yeah, there was a movie called The Blonde, Reese Witherspoon, where she played the blonde lady. I forgot what the name of it was, but her boyfriend broke up with her when she thought he wanted to marry her, because he said, well, if I'm going to be a congressman or be this or be that, I have to marry a Jackie. He had, it's who you have on your arm so you can move up that ladder. And I believe it's a lot that way with those kind of men in Watchtower. If they're looking to be more than a ministerial servant, an elder, maybe possibly head elder, or what they call the coordinator of the body of elders, they're always changing their things. But if they have aspirations of rising as far as they can possibly go in the ladder of power in the Watchtower, it's very important who their wife is. And it's important. Go ahead.
Hi there, how are you? Calling from Canada.
Hello, welcome.
Hi, I was born into and raised a witness, baptized too young, disfellowshipped by 17. I'm now 30 years later, and I still remember we weren't allowed to even think about dating until we were after the age of 21. Also, I'm an only child, so when I was disfellowshipped and had my family shun me, I had nobody, absolutely nobody. So that organization just crushes people, and I feel sorry for those that haven't woke up to the fact that it's not the truth, and they're being brainwashed.
That is such a great point. Is there a name that we can call you by? We're so glad that you called in. I don't want to say, hey, you.
Yeah, you can call me Del.
Del? Okay, thank you, Del. I really appreciate that so much. Wow, I can't even imagine being an only child, and you must have had so much pressure on you, and that you're under a microscope every second of your life.
Hi, this is Apostle.
It was bad. It was really bad.
Just let him finish his thought, please. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Del. Go ahead. Del.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say it was hard. You weren't allowed to have any friends outside the congregation. I came from a small northern congregation in Canada, and there wasn't very many younger kids that a person could associate with. And then, Monday you were studying for Tuesday. Tuesday you went to the meeting. Wednesday you were studying for Thursday. Thursday you went to the meeting. Friday you were getting prepared for Saturday morning service. And then Saturday afternoon was getting ready for Sunday, and that was a routine for 17 years. It honestly was very, very stressful.
Wow. Wow, I am so sorry you went through that, Del. I can't even imagine. Apostle Babe, thank you so much for waiting. Are you still there?
Yes. Can I ask Del a quick question before I share what was on my mind?
Of course.
Hi, Del. I'm Linda. Are you still there? So my question was...
Yeah, Linda, I'm here.
Hi. Okay, so I was wondering about, you said you were disfellowshipped at 17?
Yeah.
And your parents shunned you?
For the second time.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
I was baptized at 15. I got disfellowshipped. I was still living at home, so I thought it was the right thing to do to pay the price and so to speak, do my time. Got reinstated, and within 6 months of being reinstated, I was disfellowshipped for a second time.
Wow. Now, you were still living in your parents' home, and they were shunning you?
Up to, when the first time I was disfellowshipped, I had to live at home and not have my parents talk to me or any of my family, 100%. And then the second time, that's when I was kicked out, and I was on my own.
Oh, you got kicked out the second time?
Yeah, that's after I moved on home.
Okay. Were you asked to leave because you were disfellowshipped?
Oh, 100%. Especially being the second time, they didn't figure I learned to my lesson, and I wasn't going to follow their rules, so I was done.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. That doesn't even go with the rules. In actuality, the rules are parents are to talk to their children, and for them to shun you.
We were taught that, like I know they say they're not allowed to talk spiritual things with you, but our congregation taught us if you were shunned, that you were cut off completely. That meant no meals. That meant no talking to your family. Nothing. No association whatsoever.
If anybody's listening to this right now and you are underage and you find yourself disfellowshipped and you have to deal with what this man had to deal with, that's child endangerment. And you need to call CPS on your parents.
It's child abuse.
Okay?
It's not even endangerment. It's child abuse. People go to prison for that.
We're so hot and pissed off right now.
I've been out now. I've been out 30 years, and I still have issues because of it. Like it's
I left 40 years ago.
It's a lifelong issues you suffer, right?
Yeah, it is. And when Susan was talking a minute ago about how you look at a mate and pick a mate, she's mentioning all these different, character traits to look for to see if it's a good mate. And what I wanted to say was, these would be the things you would look for to assign somebody to be a link in the chain of a well-oiled machine, not a partner. See, they qualify as being as being part of that well-oiled machine. That has nothing to do with being in a decent relationship. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to share. Thank you. I'm not hearing anybody. Are you still?
No, we're here. We're listening. Okay, we're really run about 15 minutes into Rick's JW World News. So I'm sorry. Did you get to say what you wanted to say, Linda?
I sure did. Yes, thank you.
Oh, Linda, thank you so much for chiming in. I want to thank everyone who called in. We're going to make this subject Watchtower marriages or marriages in the Watchtower a two-parter. Please tune in 2 weeks from now.
Anne Marie, we got another. You got another 10 minutes, Anne Marie. You got another 10 minutes.
Oh, you're going to give us another 10 minutes?
Well, yeah, no, I gave you 10 minutes when it was only quarter of, so you got a few extra minutes. You got about 10 minutes to go. Okay.
Oh, okay, God, I really thank you so much. I was really worried about your show. Okay, so I take back what I said. Rick has given us another 10 minutes. Apostle Babe, Linda, did you get to say everything you wanted to say, dear? I didn't mean to cut you off.
You know what? I did, but I just want to go on about how he was treated and what is his own congregation, that's how they do things? Oh, no. And Susan chimed in. This is child abuse. No, he said no meals? What? There's an obligation by law, that parents are to, you know, even if they do tough love, they're supposed to provide certain things to a child, you know, and that's what happened to him. Didn't fall into that, you know, at all.
No.
And it breaks my heart and makes me angry. More breaks my heart, you know.
Yeah. Well, you're a loving mom. You're a loving person, and you know, to those of us who do have natural affection, we are appalled. And it's just incongruous what they do. I heard of one poor little guy. I think he was baptized around 10 years old, and he was disfellowshipped when he was 12, and he was being shunned by his Nazi JW parents in his own home. Can you imagine being 12 years old, thinking that you're going to die at Armageddon? God doesn't love you, doesn't hear your prayers. They wouldn't let him eat at the table. He couldn't sit in the living room watching TV with them. He had to stay in his room, and they would let him eat at the table when they were done, but they wouldn't talk to him. I can't even imagine the level of mental abuse and emotional cruelty. But this is what Watchtower says. Dell, I believe it was, who brought out this organization crushes people. I never heard it put quite that way, and I'm really glad to hear that. Wow, we've had a lot of participants in the show. The subject of marriages in the Watchtower really does touch on a lot of sensitive bases and issues, from not knowing who you are, marrying somebody who doesn't know who they are, your marriage being controlled and based on obedience and good standing in the Watchtower while trying to make a go of it. Those who are trying to rise in their position and you know, they love that respect and the adulation in the Watchtower, so maybe their position matters more to them than being a good husband and father. It affects their health because they have to put so much into obeying the Watchtower. How can you have to work, you have to earn money to pay your mortgage and your car note and everything else and provide for your family. And it's all about, you know, serve. And it's the pressure, the strain is just it's insane. And I'm so glad that Rick says in 2 weeks we can have part 2 so that everyone can feel free to share more, because I certainly have a lot of things written down that I haven't been able to bring out. And I'm so glad, if I have a lot of stuff, I'm so glad that others have a chance to talk. I'm sorry, anyone else want to say anything?
Can I just
get one time? Hi, go ahead, dear.
Oh. Hello?
We hear you, sweetheart. Go ahead, please. Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I just wanted to say something mentioning they at 16 or 17 made homeless and thrown out. The Norwegian government, they removed funding for Jehovah's Witnesses because of they called it the cult-like practice of shunning minors. And I think Iceland is just about to do the same. So they applied for a state subsidy like all the other religions. But because they've been caught shunning minors, so in other words, families will shun Jehovah's Witness children who have been baptized and disfellowshipped, even if they're under 18, under 16 in some cases, in their own homes. And because of that, they call it, the Norwegian government say that if the religious community commits violence, coercion, makes threats, violates a child's rights, violates statutory discrimination, prohibitions, or in other ways seriously violates the rights and freedoms of others, the society may be denied grants, or grants may be suspended. And that's what happened with Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway. I just thought I'd let that chap know And hopefully that's going to happen in many, many other countries, because I know quite a few European countries are looking into that at the moment.
Well, thank you, sister. Are you calling in from the United Kingdom?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, bless your heart. I got to meet our dear brother Ray from the United Kingdom back in 2014. And I recognized the accent, and I wasn't quite sure if I had it right. But there has been a lot of things going on, and it does start with marriages, because you feel like you have nothing but the choice of being alone in the Watchtower, and you don't really fit. And if you're not a pioneer, you're not really anybody. But you want to have connections. You want to have a network of family and friends. So, you know, it seems like only a natural thing that they want to get married. And then you have children brought into this union, which is all based on loyalty to the Watchtower. And then these poor children, through no fault of their own, trapped in this situation, you know, push from the time they draw their first breath. And any little thing, they're chastised and they're punished. And I can't imagine going through that. So marriages in the Watchtower is really a lot of layers of evil and a lot of other things that we can think of. Anybody want to comment, share, ask questions?
Hello.
Star 6? Yes,
Hello?
go ahead, dear.
Yeah,
Hello, go
I was
ahead.
just responding to Dale talking about his abuse as a child. I don't know if this was in the 60s, but mine definitely was around 63 and 64 whenever I was in elementary school. And I would go to school with whelps on the back of my legs that were bloodied. And my dress would stick to it, you know, to the blood. And I would go to school, and the school nurse would look at them and call my mother about this. And this is before Child Protective Services really got involved. This was in Texas. And I overheard my mother tell her friend that she just told her to F off. Basically, it was, you know, her family, and she could do whatever she wanted to do. But my mother was a staunch witness, and I was severely physically and mentally abused, which led to another abusive marriage in the religion, of course. And through therapy, you know, of course, I found out that it's all been traced back to abuse of one sort of another. But maybe Dale was like raised in the 60s, early 60s or mid 60s, where, you know, protective services didn't get involved like they do today.
Sister, I want to thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, I myself, even further down, you know, all of the witnesses beat their children. Every time I was in the bathroom, there was some kid that was getting beat or out of the parking lot. And I remember elders more than once telling me I wasn't doing my job as a parent because some stupid little thing that one of my kids did. And they were always reading those scriptures about beating your kid with the rod and the rod of discipline.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was so bad. And it wasn't until people started calling Child Protective Services in the late 70s, early 80s, because they were seeing these kids getting beat outside. And in the 70s, there was a thing where all of the sisters were carrying wooden spoons in their purses, you know, hitting their kids for every little thing, even in the grocery store. You know, I remember one sister said that somebody threatened. Yeah, it was, they were really advocating child abuse. So parents were really pushed to beat their children. Bottom line, your job as a, quote, spiritual parent is to beat your children, because your job is to make them be a properly indoctrinated, perfectly programmed Watchtower drone. And so we were not only having our brains taken over and programmed, but they programmed us to do that to our children. And that's a terrible, terrible thing. All, you know, first the marriage and then the children get it because of this sick, twisted marriage in a sick, twisted cult. Wow. Wow. Thank you for bringing that up. And I'm so sorry you went through that.
Well, you know, the thing is to break the child spirit or break the adult spirit. And to me, that is one of the most horrific things you can do, is to break a person's spirit. It's unforgivable.
Yeah, it
Thank
really
you.
is.
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
This
Yes,
is
you
Scott.
may. Go ahead, dear.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to mention, my parents used corporal punishment on me, but I also saw it in schools when I was growing up as a kid. It was not uncommon for a teacher or principal to take a kid and paddle them. I mean, definitely things have changed. My mother used a switch, and I was raised as Jehovah's Witness, but I don't personally feel that the punishment was excessive. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, yeah, it hurt, but usually it wasn't the first resort; it was the last resort. After we were just so bad and misbehaved that we wouldn't.
I think it was the blood issue. When you're getting beaten bloody, I think that's a.
Well, no, I mean, we were never beaten bloody. I'll say that. And I think if anybody does that, that certainly crosses the line into, definitely abuse. And I use corporal punishment on my kids, and I raised them as JWs. And again, it was always a last resort. If they just absolutely weren't listening to me, they might get a couple swats with the belt. And usually that was enough to get their attention. And a lot of times I was even nice enough to give them a choice. I'd say, you can go to your room for the night, or you can get 2 whacks at the belt. And they always choose the belt. They didn't want whatever the other punishment was. So I think a lot has to do, though, with who's doing it. And certainly, like I said, in the past, it was much more common. And it's certainly not as acceptable today. And I don't see my own daughters using it with their children very much. But I don't know, for some reason, it seems like we've been able to come up with better ways to discipline our kids without having to use corporal punishment as much. But I'm not 100% against it. But I do think, as they used to teach, and I used to hear them say all the time, that it's with the view to discipline. And discipline means correcting. It doesn't mean bloodying them, doesn't mean beating them or bruising them, but it might hurt a little. So that's all I just wanted to say. That's my personal experience being raised with it. And I'm glad my parents did. Ultimately, I think it made a difference in I don't know, me behaving and being raised as a decent adult. So that's all.
Thank you so much for that. There's definitely a big difference between discipline and abuse, and especially when you're abusing your child and you don't seem to recognize that you have, abused your position as a parent. You're supposed to parent, not be a dictator or a tyrant. Anyway, I just wanted to thank everybody. I think we've definitely taken up the show's time. I want to thank everybody for coming in. Rick, are we okay on time? Because we've really gone over.
Yeah, we're ready now to go to JW World News. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who spoke up. I didn't get everyone's names, but thank you for the first sister who spoke up. Thank you, T, for speaking up. James, Ken, Carrie, Chewy, Thomas, Dell, and definitely Linda, Pasta Babe, and the other last 2 that spoke up. It was a great show. We're going to continue the subject, marriages in the Watchtower, in 2 weeks. Today is August 27, 2022, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Well, really good program. We want to thank all those people, as you have, for coming in and being with us tonight. Our numbers are really going up here as far as people calling in and listening in on YouTube and Facebook and our video suite. So all good things are happening here at the 6 Screens. Now, we have got some dynamite programs coming up here tonight. So don't leave. We're going to end this broadcast here on YouTube and Facebook, but we'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes with JW World News. And then, of course, after JW World News, we have a special program, Murder in the Watchtower. We're going to talk about 3 Jehovah's Witnesses that were murdered, and we want to have a guest come on who was a relative of those that were murdered. She's a former Jehovah's Witness herself. She'll be on with us tonight at around 9:30. Murder in the Watchtower, special program tonight after the news. And then around 11 o'clock, 11:30 p.m., we're going to go to Apostle Babe, your favorite apostate. Linda James from Southern California will be coming in. She burns the midnight oil right here on the 6 screens. All right, we're going to get ready to go to our other program. I'm going to end this broadcast, so we'll be back on YouTube in just a couple of minutes.